If we have the right to be suspicious of every other major belief, why should Islam be uniquely exempt? One may criticize the authority of the pontiff, the Pope. One may criticize the authority of the Quran. There is no double standard. Of course.
On that basis, when someone criticizes the Pope, when someone criticizes Catholic teachings, is it a threat against the dignity of Catholics?
No, of course not. No.
Point of information.
Of course.
But we're not arguing about whether you have a right to be suspicious of Islam, but whether you are right to be suspicious of Islam. There's a difference. I'm sure you agree.
The motion is we have a right to be. So the West is right to be suspicious of Islam. That's absolutely fine. I think we're right to be suspicious of all sorts of ideologies, including, as I mentioned, of Christianity, of monarchism, communism, fascism, which we have been historically. You know, we're also right to be skeptical of Islamism, which Osama bin Laden seems to be a big fan of. Now, the opposition, Mr. Chair, have attempted to blur the distinction between criticism of Islam and prejudice against Muslims. But these are not the same thing. Suspicion of an idea is not hatred of a person. To question a doctrine is not to persecute its followers. Of course, I give way.
So you invoked Martin Luther King. If we accept Dr. King's principle that people should be judged on the content of their character, why should we judge nearly 2 billion Muslims by the actions of the French minority?
I'll refer the lady opposite to my most previous sentence, quote, "But these are not the same thing. Suspicion of an idea is not hatred of a person. To question a doctrine is not to persecute its followers." Our suspicion is particularly justified in Islam. Unlike many modern interpretations of religion, it is not always presented merely as a private spiritual faith. Many interpretations of Islam contain legal, political, and social prescriptions. They make claims about not only how individuals should live their lives, but how society should be organized and governed. When any belief system seeks influence over law, education, public morality, or political institutions, citizens don't only have a right, but a responsibility to question those ideologies. In addition to concerns regarding fundamentalist Islam abroad, for example in Iran and Afghanistan, we have witnessed, Mr. Chair, within our own society, serious challenges posed by Islamist extremism. The United Kingdom has spent decades confronting terrorist threats inspired by extreme interpretations of Islam. I direct all members to take a look at the MI5 terror watch list, made up overwhelmingly of Islamist terrorists.
PY, is the Speaker aware that Islamism is not Islam?
Of course. There was no indication that Islamism is the same as Islam. The point I'm making is many followers of Islam take it to the extreme, disproportionately compared to other religions. Of course.
Was the Prophet Muhammad in business, by definition?
Well, I'm sure you know more about that, Tommy, than I would. We have also seen instances in which public authorities were reluctant to investigate or discuss pattern. No, I did not give you permission. Please sit down. We have also seen instances in which public authorities were reluctant to investigate or discuss patterns that emerged in certain criminal networks for fear of causing offence or appearing prejudiced. Whatever conclusions one draws from those cases, Mr. Chair, the lesson is clear. Fear of criticising ideas, cultures or communities cannot be permitted in the pursuit of truth. A liberal society must be willing to examine uncomfortable facts wherever they may lead. Of course, Mr. Chair, I'm talking about the rape gangs, one of the greatest domestic atrocities in decades. Thousands and thousands of young, white, working-class girls raped and abused. Yet the authorities, they were afraid to ask the difficult questions about the perpetrators, the vast and overwhelming majority of whom were Pakistani Muslim men.
Point of information.
I give way.
That's factually not correct. According to the VKPP National Analysis reports, only 2.2% of Pakistanis are involved, those who are committing child sex exploitation. Of the total amount of perpetrators, 2.2% are Pakistanis. How are they the majority? How are they the majority, sir?
That's fine. The rape gangs I'm referring to were mentioned in the J report, were mentioned in the rape gang report published yesterday by Rupert Lowe. You may be a fan of him, I'm not sure. Of course, I give way.
On a point, across all child sexual offences in this country, around 88% of convicted offenders are white, and only a very small minority are from mixed or ethnic backgrounds. If we do not call that a white sex offender epidemic, why is the Speaker entitled to call a far smaller subset a Muslim one? The Home Office's own December 2020 review of group-based child sexual exploitation found that offenders are most commonly white. Will the Speaker tell the House that he is equally suspicious, wholesale, of white men as a whole?
Thank you, Madam President. I was not referring to anybody's race. What I was referring to is the religion of Islam and how culturally it is proven very, very prominent in these rape gangs. No, thank you. I would direct the members of the House to the rape gang report published yesterday by the Member of Parliament for Great Yarmouth, particularly to page 18, where the most egregious testimonies of all begin, those of the survivors. To recognise this fact is not to condemn ordinary Muslims. Indeed, many of the victims of Islamist extremism around the world are themselves Muslim. But a particular ideology giving rise to movements that reject pluralism, individual liberty, democratic governance, and freedom of expression. Citizens must be able to ask questions about those ideas. Indeed, every scientific advance and every philosophical breakthrough begins with the willingness to ask difficult questions. A society that loses this ability and the right to be suspicious loses the capacity to think critically. Ultimately, Mr. Chair, this debate is not alone about Islam. It is about whether any set of ideas should be protected from scrutiny because criticism may offend, of course.
The debate is not actually about whether the West has a right to be suspicious of Islam. It is very specifically that the West is right.
And I've pointed to...
a bit of a distinction there. We're not saying you don't have a right.
Thank you, Madam President. I've pointed to many examples as to why we would be right to, for example, the rape gangs. So if the answer is yes, that we should allow these ideas to be sheltered from scrutiny, then liberal democracy has fallen face first. It has failed. If the answer is no, and we should question these ideas, then the motion must stand, and you all must vote in proposition. We ask for no special suspicion of Islam. We ask for no lesser rights for Muslims. We ask only for the equal application of a principle at the heart of Western civilization, that every idea, however ancient, however influential, however sacred, must be questioned and is right to be criticized. Islam is a powerful and influential set of ideas. Like with every other powerful set of ideas, it may be examined, criticized, and yes, regarded with suspicion. And if there is one thing everybody in this room can agree with, it is that being suspicious of propositions is entirely reasonable. After all, you've spent the last 10 minutes being suspicious of mine. So, of course.
So, the motion is actually, this House believes the West as a whole is right to be suspicious of Islam. You're referring to individual suspicions and individual lines of inquiry. What this motion is referring to, and what I hope... I
think we have the point, sir. Please allow the Speaker to respond.
Is it a systemic?
Sir, please allow the Speaker to respond. Thank you.
Well, there was about 4 questions in there. I'm not sure which one to respond to. I'll go with the second or the third, or maybe the fifth. I'm not sure. What I would say to you is, in America, they're very suspicious of Islam, and they've had a very successful immigration policy. Over here, we're increasingly, as a society, suspicious of Islam, for some of the reasons I've mentioned, including the rape gangs, including the MI5 terror watch list, made up overwhelmingly of Islamist terrorists. So I hope that answers one of your vast array of questions. Now, for those reasons, Mr. Chair, including the fact that most of this room have probably been very suspicious of my propositions for the last 10 minutes, and maybe rightly so, I am also suspicious of Islam. And for those reasons, Mr. Chair, I beg the House to vote in proposition. Thank you very much.